Brilliant, fantastic. I think his level of consistency is like the biggest factor. I think when Pitts has a bad game, he's probably a 7 out of 10, but in most weeks he's going to be an 8, 9 out of 10. Should be a 10 out of 10 if he scored more goals, obviously. But but it's just his level of consistency is brilliant. He puts the team before himself, to his detriment at times, to be honest. But he's just a fantastic player, and if he's fit in general, he's one of the first names on the team sheet. I think you've maybe been dropped out of not being injured maybe once or twice, and you're full, not only once or twice, Pats, on your full maybe 7.5, 8 years at the football club. So that tells you everything about Pitts as a human being, but also tells you what he brings to the football club.
I think it's obviously a special occasion for me. I think I've been here like 7.5 years or something, so I think to play so many games in that amount of time, I think it's a good achievement for me. As I said before, it's like been the perfect club for me. I think, like the gaffer said, he obviously brought me to the club and stuff, so it's just going to be a special moment for me.
I'm extremely proud. I'm a good friend of the family, and I know his family's very, very proud of him. I tried on a number of occasions to get you into Livingston. I think you had a couple of bounce games when I was playing with you at Broxburn. So big Gary Malley was the goalie, I was centre mid, and wee Pitts was more probably an attacking centre mid at that point. And we'd got him into a few clubs, tried to get clubs to look at him, and I think I'd been in Livingston 6 months when I spoke to you, spoke to your dad, spoke to Alan McGonigal at Bowness as well at that point, and just said, look, I want to get this done, how do I get him into the club? Mark Burchell was the manager, and Burchie said, I wasn't overly sure at the time. I said, well look Burchie, see by the end of the summer, if we don't think it's going to be a good fit for all parties, I said, well, wee Pitts will not be hard to deal with, we'll shake hands and we'll all move on. And I think you'd been in the building maybe 3-4 weeks, and I think you went in the team. I think you got in the team, Burchie's like, brilliant. And he never came out of the team with anybody that's been in the building as a manager, any coaching staff. I think you've stayed in the team with every manager that's come into the club. Obviously I had a huge impact in that, so you've got me to thank for that one, Pitts. But I can remember Burchie saying to me, saying delighted that we actually brought him in. He's one of these players, I had the luxury of training him and playing with him. And probably I would say maybe in some of the trial games you weren't a standout in terms of what you've done as an individual, but sees playing with Pitts on the park and coaching Pitts, I know what he could bring to the team. And I think it's very, very similar with people out with watching Pitts. Though he goes a wee bit unnoticed, he goes about his business quietly on the park, but if you go in the change room and in the staff office and say, right, what's your team? I think wee Pitts is probably one of the only players, a few players, that's in every single person's team in this building. So that tells you everything about Scott.
I think we're performing really well. I think we've started the season the way we finished last season, really. So obviously 2 wins at the first 3 games is a good start.
Really happy, delighted to be honest. Last year was a difficult start, but going on to this year we've got the continuity in the building from a staff point of view and a player's point of view, so I'm a big believer in continuity. I think that's played a huge part in my start to the season, and it's up to us as coaches and it's up to Pitts as players to maintain that level of consistency. That's probably the one thing in the Premier League that you need more than anything, is a level of consistency, because it's a fine line between winning games of football and losing games of football. But delighted with the boys, delighted with the start they've made, but again I'll go back to it, you're only really as good as your last game, and we try and take one game at a time, and it's on to Motherwell now, so it's about consistency, keeping that level and consistency as top as we can. I can guarantee you Joe Newbley will be here by the end of the window. I'm a great believer, I would do what's right for the player and the club, but I genuinely feel Joe needs a good year at his football club. If I can get him into double figures, it probably puts another £1 million on his value, so that's the objective. But if you actually look at it, but I think Joel scored a couple of goals, he's been brilliant in the last 3 games, but again, if we can get that level of consistency, we can get Joel up to 12-ish, 15 goals a season. I think then you've got a top Premier League striker. So again, that benefits everybody, not just Joel Newbley, it benefits Livingston Football Club also.
What's latest with Max? You said obviously last season that you expected he would go, and still likely to move on? Something's probably going to get announced today, if I'm honest. He's been down seeing a club for the last 2 days. It's not been signed, sealed and delivered. It should be signed, sealed and delivered
by the next hour to 90 minutes, if I'm honest. And the club will be releasing a statement over the next couple of hours, I think it is, Davey, over the next couple of hours once we've got the paperwork back in the building. I don't want to say too much because it's not all signed off at this point in time, but probably by noon today Max should be playing the next part of his career down south.
Just the benefit of getting your 2 goalkeepers in early and preparing for that eventuality.
Yeah, well, Shamal's come into the building. Shamal's done more than enough to keep that number 1 jersey. I think he's been magnificent for us. I'm actually actively pursuing another goalkeeper at this point in time, so I've got 3 in the building. To keep that level of consistency, we need that cover, and we need to keep pushing one another every day in training, so I will be looking to bring another goalkeeper in, if I'm honest. No, we're probably still looking for that one more offensive player. I've been looking for this offensive player for the last 3-4 weeks, to be honest. I've got a few options, so I'm going to leave that to as late as possible before I make my mind up in that one, because I think there's going to be potentially a few exciting opportunities coming available from maybe Premiership, Championship clubs down south, maybe even League One clubs that are at the end of the window. They've got a few options, then you've got the domino effect, so I'm going to try and leave a space open for as long as possible to get the right person in the building. It's alright going out and saying, I need an offensive player, but it's got to be the right offensive player for the football club. The character of the person's got to be correct, but obviously they've got to bring quality into the final third, and that's what I'm looking for. James Penrice is back training. We've got no new knocks. It's maybe a wee bit early for James, but James is back training. Morgan Boyce is getting closer by the week, so for that point of view, for an injury point of view, we're in a good place. And Partsy potentially is going in for an operation next week, the tail end of the week after, so Partsy is going to be a long term one. But potentially just Morgan and James, but James has took part in a few training sessions this week, but we need to manage his loads. His training loads are important, we need to manage them properly. I think they've kind of changed a little how they were playing under Graham. I would say they probably played a wee bit more direct under Graham. They're trying to get the ball down, they're trying to play. Liam Kelly's got a lot more short passes in his game now than what he probably did under the previous manager, but I do go on record, I thought the previous manager had a successful season last year, so there's no right way and a wrong way to play games of football. It's about picking points up, but I do believe they'll play a wee bit more football. They'll try to get the ball down, they'll try to play through the thirds opposed to maybe missing out a midfield press, so they are trying to get the ball down and play a wee bit more, open the park up. And why wouldn't they? They've just spent, I don't know, close to £1 million on the surface, and I've seen it myself, and it's a fantastic surface, absolutely fantastic surface, and that's conducive to the players at that football club trying to get the ball down and play football. Personally, I'm looking forward to going there. Again, the surface is fantastic playing surface, we're in good form, and I think it should be a good game of football, if I'm honest.